You know, Dave, two old guys now getting down on our hands and knees here looking at stuff. This is one of the biggest problems with new new establishments in New England. But if you have a new development going in with housing, some of the challenges that you have is you've got the wrong equipment doing the soil moving at the 11th hour. You've got contractors that might peel the topsoil off, build what they're going to build, and then maybe push the topsoil back or maybe sell the topsoil somewhere else for a profit. So you end up with overly compacted, really beat up, nasty compacted soils that don't have much air or water porosity in them. And the other problem is you're turning over whatever weed parts and pieces of weeds and weed seeds that are in the soil, and you're bringing them up to the surface.
And this is a great example of a lawn that we killed. We came in there, we used non-selective to get rid of everything that was on the surface growing. But the problem is as John just pointed out, there's a seed bed below, and it's viable. And the minute you turn it over and you give it a little sunlight, off to the races.
And this is pretty indicative of what we see in New England soils, particularly in this part of Connecticut, is it's all old farmland. And for years, you know, we seeded orchard grass in here on purpose because it's a good soil stabilizer. It could be a good food source for a lot of livestock. And it has a lot of other really good attributes to it in a meadow type scenario. But orchard grass is a noxious weed in a lawn scenario. And then I forgot.
You say obnoxious or obnoxious?
Yes, both. Because it's almost impossible to get rid of in a lawn from a selective standpoint. One really, really important point too that happens, we talked about compaction and wrong equipment, and usually you don't get this nice of a job with a seeding out of a contractor. You know, the other thing that most contractors end up doing is they end up going, you know, to your local supply house and buying the cheapest bag of contractor seed mix that you could find, and it's usually loaded with inert material, weed seed, but they usually buy, you know, they usually are varieties not stated, which is the bottom of the barrel grass seed varieties, because the contractor is not being paid to provide a beautiful lawn; they're being paid to finish the job and seed it and drive away. The tail light guarantee, I like to say.
Something that's going to establish quick, get that CO,
and move on to the next job.
Yeah.
So, you know, I like to encourage people at the later stages of, if you're building a house, if you're building a development, if you can select your lawn care provider prior to the contractor seeding the job and signing off on it, you can have a little bit more control over what seed actually goes in the ground.